you again, you'll get the same treatment. Question number 9, Barbara Kuriger.
My question is to the Minister for Primary Industries and asks, what announcements has the government made to help support our primary sector exporters succeed in overseas markets?
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr Speaker, Trade Minister Todd McClay and I recently announced new funding of just over $53 million to help support our primary sector exporters to overcome trade barriers. The funding was announced as part of the Government's Trade Agenda 2030, and it will increase MPI's presence in European and Southeast Asian markets, establish an export regulatory advisory service to help small exporters navigate complex regulatory environments, accelerate work on priority non-tariff barriers, which are a major issue for our primary sector exporters, and expand MPI's economic intelligence units that will help exporters identify market opportunities.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Barbara Kuriger.
To the Minister, why is accelerating work on non-tariff barriers so important for our primary sector exporters?
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Good question. While conventional tariffs are a major barrier, the export of our goods are also affected by other measures such as quotas and technical standards. An NZIER study estimated that New Zealand exporters face around $6 billion in non-tariff barriers each year, with much of this in the primary sector. This funding will help create a flying squad of experienced market access officials who will engage with their overseas counterparts to help gain easier market access for our products.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Barbara Kuriger.
How will this funding support existing and emerging markets for our primary sector exports?
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Speaker, my thoughts are with, indeed, Edgecombe farmers and households up there right now who are dealing with a major flood event. And this agriculture town is based very much on the primary sector, and they know that we export to around 130 countries, and this MPI funding will help ensure that we can continue to diversify our export profile. MPI indeed holds a wealth of information on different markets. The EIU will be an important source of information for our exporters to identify new market opportunities. And of course, with MPI increasing its footprint in the new Southeast Asian markets such as Vietnam, and it will also strengthen our relationships in the very important European markets as well.
Question number 10, Porto Williams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister for Disability Issues.